Well, welcome to the virtual brown bag. Or JB, you want to introduce this one?
Sure. Yeah, it's where we meet every week and discuss technical tips, tricks, and share code and just keep each other up to date. It's like having a water cool talk or code meeting or brown bag with the company. But for people who want to get either outside influences or just they don't have a large team, they would be freelancing. We occasionally have more and more people who work from home, like myself, that you don't get that little office shop talk. This is a chance to get office shop talk. We provide that conversation and tips and tricks that Twitter used to provide, but now Twitter provides nothing but garbage in people's opinions. What I guess that's basically we do broadcast this live and we do record it, so don't share things that are internal to your business or code or codes that you don't want being out there in the public eye, because people will pay attention to that and steal your Amazon keys and then destroy the world. So yeah, that's about covered up.
Cool. You guys have anything you'd want to share?
I'm looking to see what I have here. Let me see if I can share this screen.
Yeah, I got a couple things. And obviously we were talking about doing more stuff with implementing our own Reflux, whatever.
Reflux, yeah. That sounds like about right.
Seth, I can do time travel.
Oh, let's see if I can get that. Yeah, that's bigger and better. All right, so implementing search with Elasticsearch. Have you used Elasticsearch before, guys? No.
No, but I've been on the cusp of doing it several times when it turned out to not be necessary.
Yeah, so there's certain occasions, so we need to have a search, and there's certain occasions where it's not necessary, because one of the things is that the database tools these days are getting stronger and stronger search capabilities. I know Postgres can do a lot of stuff. I'm sure there's Mongo ones, and I'm sure Microsoft SQL has similar things too. And we're not talking about we're talking about talking more than just like.
What is Elasticsearch? Can you define it real quick?
Yeah, sure. So Elasticsearch is it's one of those turtles all the way down sort of situation here. At the very core is Lucene, if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure, and that's generally what a lot of these other search libraries are using to provide search engine. Elasticsearch differs from the other ones because it provides it's a server that you communicate with through HTTP. So other libraries, you are making other calls, and I'm not sure. Like I've used Solr, and I think Sphinx and some other stuff. So there's similar ideas under the cores. There's Lucene, and that's the main thing. But Elasticsearch is recently more popular, more jumping out because you use JSON and communicate through HTTP, so it fits more seamlessly with your normal communication to other services. So does that help, Seth?
Yeah.
The general idea for all these searches is you index something, and then after you index it, you can then search on it. Let's see if I can.
So rather than doing database call or whatever, right? You're actually having a server that is caching and doing these optimization things. So when you search, you query this server. Okay.
Right, and it does. There's different steps with searching like this, and one of them is called I think it's tokenizing, and then you generally have a tokenizer, then an analyzer, and part of that is breaking up words into stems that I think they're called. It's a whole. These are very deep waters, and you can understand what you start getting into. It is easy to spin something up, but then mastering it takes some time. And so one of the things you break out is okay, so if you have here we have Skywalker as one of the things. So if I want to search what I want to share is that Elasticsearch is awesome. install it, everything's good, and you can interact with Elasticsearch library with different languages. But I found here, I was like, man, I want to see what it has and make HTTP requests myself. And I found a Chrome extension called Sense that does that for you. And it provides nice little IntelliSense too. So I can be like, hey, I want to query, and I want to match the field, and let's just go for name. And I want to look for Tatooine. Right. So it ran, it showed what it hits, it gave me the score, and it shows, okay, this is what I indexed inside there. But it doesn't enough check that, we'll see that doesn't work, but let's see if I did that. Nope. Yeah, see how well it works? There's little ways we can get it to set up. Stem. Oh, I bet, when I say match, what if I say match phrase? That's going there. What if I do that now? Nope. So this is what you generally do, is try figuring out. So it's not matching, but it's because Tatooine is not a real word, so it probably doesn't know how to split it up. But is that type of stuff? Oh, I didn't set the fuzziness. I bet that's what's going on here, is I need to set fuzziness on it.
Why does it have to be a Chrome extension as opposed to just a testing website?
You can use Postman and just do HTTP requests.
Well, no, I mean, like, why didn't they just put this on a... Is there a reason why they didn't put this on a website? Like, do you have to, like, add bigger keys or something like that?
No, I think there's also some admin tools I tried installing, but I wasn't very happy with that solution. I think there should be more of an admin type interface with this stuff, and I've seen some providers for it, but I haven't dabbled enough with it. From my purposes, it's pretty.
It's a local server. I mean, I don't know how you would.
Yeah. See, this is locally for me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not hosted. Got it.
So let's say match phrase. Let's try this, and I want it to hit the name. And I want the query to be Tatooine, and I want the fuzziness to be auto. I don't know why I have a sitting here and I'm still learning. It has operator and it's and I don't know why I have that, but we'll just go with it. Now let's see what happens. There we go. So now it's matching, even though I didn't spell Tatooine correctly. It knows how to match it. And it has a certain letter limit that Tat is not going to get you anything done that well. So the difference between knowing how to get Tatooine, the number of letters, and how far it goes off, these are all done in the token and the analyzer part. I imagine the tokens break up the word into the small components. Analyzer lets you know like how far things can be far apart. I assume. Again, not an Elasticsearch expert, getting better at it. So I like this because I can figure this stuff out. I can just try different things because it like I say, it's finicky, and you're trying to figure out, okay, why aren't you showing this stuff? What's going on here? What I discovered this time was, or this week was explain, which is awesome because now when you get your search results, I can explain why these things are at different points, and now understanding what the hell that means, that's going to be another day or so figuring that out. But it's nice because if you're ever implemented a complex search, there's always going to be the order and the scoring, and there's always going to be finicking, like messing with the points, and so it's going to be really helpful to have explain to be able to go, why is this guy higher than this person, and figure out like maybe I need to adjust some of the point weights. And I haven't gotten to that part yet. Where you'd use Elasticsearch versus a normal search, like with the database Postgres, would be particularly like in our scenario when you're hitting multiple tables and you're indexing and you're searching on multiple different type of fields, and each of the fields have different weights. You can do that. Like the previous implementation wasn't Postgres, but it quickly becomes evident that like Postgres is designed to be a database, and the searching is getting better, but searching is not going to be the same as the feature set as like Elasticsearch, because that's what, and Lucene, that's what it's there for. How you generally work this is like you go through your database, and after you save a record or you upload a bunch of records, you index them, and when you index them, you just do a post operation, and you tell them, hey, these are the fields. That's what this source is for. This is what I gave them. I said, hey, this is what you should index. And it goes, okay, I'm going to do it, and it just has default ones, so it knows how to index all these things. So I could look. So under here, I'm searching under name, but I could. So if I look, let's say Skywalker, I'm not going to pull anything, but I could also say, hey, search all the fields for Skywalker. And then let's get this off so we can actually see the results. We can then see that, oh, it pulled here because its notes had Skywalker in it, but then Alderaan mentions Skywalker in the body of the notes. And so you can see that this scored higher because of the hierarchy that it just inferred from it. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty awesome. Pretty easy to get up running. It's one of those skills that it's easy to get something up running, but then mastering how to put it, how to get it set up, and how to filter all the stuff, it takes a while. Because as you can see, it's a DSL, a complete DSL that it takes a lot to read and understand because they speak English, but you need to speak search terms to understand what they're talking about. And a lot of times it's like they might give you a clue like, oh, this is how you do it, and then you have to sort of figure out like, oh, well, the way you put that DSL is you have to move it around.
So you need to construct this JSON object like in a very specific way.
Right.
Gotcha. Which is, by the way, a problem with documentation. That's not a problem that should. It's not like it doesn't have to do with the complexity of the thing itself, though. It's just kind of frustrating they don't give good examples.
Yeah, I would agree. I was actually thinking, it's like, man, if I had time, I was like, I just make a Elasticsearch book, and the entire Elasticsearch book, all it is just nothing but examples.
But examples, because seriously, how many different types of, like, it's like everyone is basically doing 99% of the same types of queries.
Right. You also can highlight fields, and I haven't gotten that to work yet, but that sort of idea here would be like so that I would get back under source. I think they'd have another section called highlights, and it would return to me that like this with an HTML highlight around emphasis tag around Skywalker, and then another one there. So that in my search results I can show what I got matched. But I haven't gotten it to work yet.
Oh.
You also can do type ahead stuff with this. And I've been dabbling with that last night, but I haven't got it work either. So as I search, it will do a quick and dirty search on whatever I'm typing, and give me the top 50 matches for that. And it's not perfect, and they asterisk like, hey, it's going to sometimes not find things, but the idea is it's quick, and you can provide some feedback on the stuff. But yeah, and I'm using Elasticsearch, the node library, and I haven't had any complaints.
So how does it work? You just basically install Elasticsearch, it runs as a service on your machine.
Right.
And then you just, whenever it's in there, basically?
Yeah, and then just put
documents. Whenever it changes, you issue an update command or something.
Exactly. Let's see if I can. I normally have it done in code. Let's see if I can do one inside here.
If you're using.
Is there a reason to use or not use Elasticsearch as a primary database?
It has relations, but I wouldn't necessarily use it for that. As a primary database, getting something by the ID, it's sort of weird. So it's like, no, like I wouldn't. I mean, it's good for what like searching, and that's what its prime thing is. I'm trying to figure out like why because you can get things out by IDs, and you can when you insert things, it will automatically insert an ID. But I just don't like. Yeah, I wouldn't. It's not designed for it. Because that's one thing too is reading it. Like sometimes you think about some of the operations, like it's a NoSQL database, so you think about it in terms of NoSQL operations, and they're saying don't do it that way. Like you're making a mistake. Like and they went through some more details, but I didn't fully understand it yet enough for me to explain it, but enough for me to go, oh, okay. So if I start thinking of this way, I should probably take a step back and re-examine it, because they're referring mostly to indexing operations, like updating a bunch. They're saying like don't necessarily update like. I'm not sure if the recommendation was to delete and then put a new one, but they were saying that if you're updating a bunch, it's a really slow operation.
That's pretty annoying. Like, why? Like, if Mongo search capabilities was just like 50% better, it could render a lot of the use cases for this kind of thing obsolete. But instead, you have like these like feature forks that add complexity to like a very common operation.
Well, this isn't Mongo though. Like Elasticsearch isn't Mongo. It doesn't store stuff in documents.
No, it like works with Mongo, but it does stuff that you could implement in Mongo. Like if the API was.
Are you making that assumption? I mean, search is a very like academic field actually. Like there's hardcore reasons why.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah, exactly. There's certain things in Mongo and Postgres and other data that you can get with search, with some basic searching stuff. It's when suddenly you're searching across multiple, like in Mongo, multiple collections. You're searching off of in multiple fields, and you're searching for some terms, and not even just a single like text terms, like something that's complex operation, like hey, I want all the collections, whatever, like let's think of, I don't know, like news articles, posts, blogs, comments, and forum posts and user profiles that mention this, that were created between these dates, that were, that have this ranking of this, like greater than this, like that type of Mongo or Postgres. Yeah, you can do it, but it'd be like complex and difficult, and like you have to think a lot about, versus Elasticsearch or the other search engines, like that's their wheelhouse. That's like right. Once you get that, they're like nailed it, and not only that, it's performant. Like it's super fast at that. Like
how do you hook in your database? Do you have to map the
yes,
tables?
you call. So I just indexed this, I think. So let's see if I can try it. So now I'm going to search, and I'm looking for a query. And I want to match phrase all. And then I say brown bag or something. There we go. Knew how to match it because I mentioned brown bag inside there. So you just post and you give it the type, which I gave is VBP.
So how do you have this working like for deployment then? Like this is just, I mean, is the actual deployment of Elasticsearch bundled? Or just have that like as a documented prerequisite, and you have to like input a connection string into a file or something?
Yeah, you can. So like the Elasticsearch itself, you provide, it's just like you connect to any database. You have a host and you provide a config of how you're going to connect to the client. In this scenario where I'm using it, and it all depends. So in a Rails app,
server is not like packaged in the application, right?
No, yeah. So just like you wouldn't package in a Postgres server.
Okay.
So you have to install, if you're on Mac and Homebrew, install that guy. And yeah, and so it depends on the different frameworks. So like Rails and Phoenix and stuff like that. Like I was discussing this week with a friend about how you architect different systems and when to use Node and when not to. And in this scenario, we're using Node, and to me, they feel very different. I was like, look, if I'm using Rails and Phoenix, and I haven't done enough MVC projects, but I'd be tempted to do it with MVC, but I haven't seen. But they're very monolithic in a way, like that's their wheelhouse. So if you're doing search, it feels very natural to add gem install or bring in the dependency, and you and you talk to Elasticsearch inside your app. But with Node, I feel Node's wheelhouse is very much microservices. I feel that once you start getting into this monolithic apps, to me, and it could just because I don't like it, I feel like it's just very dirty and ugly. Versus, I think microservices, Node, as small little services that communicate with each other, that's to me like this bread and butter is awesome.
Yeah, it's just a deployment nightmare then, like specifying stuff, and maybe Docker can help a little bit, but have you yet to see anyone that has a really great setup with that?
Well, there's also a thing with like, because see, this is like you're not deploying everything. So like to me, like this search for like what we're doing with the search is going to be its standalone thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the web app is going to talk to this server, it's not even going to talk to the other server to get its search results. Right. And then the back end is just going to tell the search service to index these things. And we haven't decided what we're going to use, but we're probably going to use a queue and just be like, hey, these are the things you need to index. And this guy that's all he does is he watches that queue, indexes stuff, and then listens for requests for search data and spits it back out.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It keeps it all boxed into. The reason I like this is boxing is like we keep all the tests because it's going to be complex test suite. You keep all the tests inside here, all the complexity of search inside here, and if we ever get to the stage where we're like we need to bring in an Elasticsearch expert or whatever, they have this. We can say here's this project, and they don't get everything. They get this very simple setup.
Is there like a config file that shows the relationship between the tables and like where you actually are more explicit about what you're hooking into the database, what kind of tables you're hooking into, and so forth?
So with Rails,
because that would be part of the deployment question, I guess.
Right. So with like Rails and Phoenix, and you generally you can hook into Active Record, and I'm searching over here to see. There's they'll probably show a good example if they have Elasticsearch Rails. Looking over here, let me bring it over so you see. What I would expect to see is, yeah, like you'd hook into Active Record and be like, hey, on save index, and this is how you index. This is what I've done before, but I used Solr. It was the same idea, and that's what I was saying. It's different approaches. So I believe I was looking at Phoenix. They have a similar idea.
Okay, so you're implementing it on the framework level? Okay.
It depends. Like this is just one approach. For the JavaScript side, what we're doing here, we're calling the server directly, and so it's not connected to the database at all. In fact, this server that we're setting up, it has. Like I was experimenting with talking to Postgres, but we discussed and like we're not even going to talk to Postgres. Like it's going to be agnostic. All it's going to know is here's the queue. I look at the queue and the JSON blob you get me. I'm going to process it and index it accordingly. Let me take a look and review. I think we'll be okay for showing this. I don't think there's any config files because I'm just still working on it. So once I share this, you'll sort of see how it works, and I can get feedback from y'all whether y'all like this structure. Share with the team, and they like it. Where did my screen go? I lost Hangouts. It's disappeared. Oh, here we go. And you.
Here.
Hey, there we go.
Real quick, Lucene versus Elastic.
That's not it.
Okay, there's like 5 others. One of the big ones that comes up. What are your thoughts on competition and so on?
Between Elasticsearch and something else?
Yeah, Lucene, or I think there's a couple others.
Yeah, so Lucene is what Elasticsearch uses. It's different approaches. I think the main difference is Elasticsearch is growing more popular because of the HTTP interaction you have with it. That was unique for me for it, but I don't. That's not to say that the other ones. There was a lot of black magic with the other ones I was working with, but it just could have been I used them in like Rails, and Rails like here the Elasticsearch library we looked at there is like that's a lot of black magic. It's not telling you what it's doing. Versus the JavaScript one, obviously, is that's one thing benefit of Node I do like is, and it might be a pain in the ass to configure and stuff like that, but you learn what you're using and how it works. So, yeah, I think there's 6 one way, half a dozen other. I don't know many people that are search engine wars type people. It's mostly using it or not using it, and when to use it, when not to use it. And most of people's feedback is they love using it and they've had a lot of success with it. I had a couple people's feedback that was one in particular. Peter was saying that they've implemented it twice, and I don't know if it was both Elasticsearch, but each time was a mistake because they really just needed SQL-like. You know, like they go through all these efforts and it's like, look, you just needed the like part, didn't you? But in this scenario, it's a little more complex. All right, so how this works, so you can see, is we were potentially exploring other search providers. So I made a function the factory that just generate the search provider you want to use based on the configuration you pass in, or the provider that you want. This will then return what I call the Elasticsearch provider. Let's look at a test so you can sort of see the basic idea of how we do this stuff. All right, so we get our search provider. We then clear our indices because this is testing, just like clearing your database. And if we look here, let's look at the call. It just goes, hey, all the indices that you have, just delete and ignore 404. And that's what this. And actually, when I say it's a little bit different, so we were talking about what's the difference between an index and indices. It gets a little bit complex. Is that there's a parent index, and then there's child indexes underneath that. And the parent index, essentially think of it as a database. In my scenario before, my database was Landox-Star Wars, and it was in the URL. And so that'd be so you could connect to different ones. That's why in my configuration you pass in which database that you're looking at. So we then clear it all out. If we go back to basic tests, we then say, hey, we're going to insult the database. You're bad. No, we're going to insert a bunch of indexes. And for me, we have different types. And so one of the types we have is tracks, but then we also have docs and other sort of, think of this as your different tables. And this is the data that you can pass into them. So if we look under there, we can see that all I do is I form a collection of an array of promises that are functions that are going to be promises, and then I run my promise all. And this is important here is that it behaves I'm not 100% on how Mongo does its little soft insert, but I do know for searches that it will give you a 200, and this is across all the board, and say, yes, I just indexed it, we're all good. But then if you immediately search afterwards, won't be there. You have to refresh your index when you're doing rapid searches, like indexing and then searching. Normally it's fine. Normal scenarios, you don't need to refresh it. Like you just because it's saying, hey, I got it. I'm indexing it. Don't worry about it, and it'll eventually be up to date. But when you're doing a rapid test, you're gonna need to refresh it.
Oh, okay. So it will return a 404.
Yeah, 404 will happen if that index doesn't exist. And that's why I get rid of it, because I'm saying clear out database Star Wars, and it goes, oh my gosh, Star Wars doesn't exist, and it blows up, and I'm telling it's cool if it doesn't exist, that's fine. That's fine. Now the index document, since we have different types, this index document function comes from mappers, and what I have here is this is where I handle the different types. So under index document, it looks and goes, okay, what type are you? Okay, if you're a track, then I want to call the index track function, and then I have here, and this is how you index with Elasticsearch, the node library. You just say, hey, index this file, the parent index, give it the type, give it ID. ID we auto-generated if you don't bring it in, and then the body. This is what it's going to search through, like the different properties. And this, when you get a hit, this is what's the source. So a hit returns the source. It will return all the data inside here. This is very basic. You can actually provide, there's a DSL associated with this, so you can tell what type of searching to do on each of these fields and how much weight you should put on it, and what analyzer and tokenizer. So this is a simple approach to it. Right, so it identifies the type, it calls the different index functions based on the type that's passed in, and then when we do the search, I form my query, and then I call search here, and then I can get, from my response, I get the total hits, and then I map each of the hits back. So the map result function is, again, following the mappers. The mappers calls map result, and the hit, I have the type that I set when I indexed, and then I can look, and each function separates and returns back the format. The reason for the map function for us is because you're doing a search result, and we want the search result that you get back to be at least in a similar format, because each of the sources could be completely different formats, but we want to have at least some sort of common format that we get back so that the search page can render the search result appropriately. And then if you actually want to look at the actual track or actual leash or whatever, we have a route that you would then go to that normal page. And so, yeah, that's how I got that set up.
Cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my JavaScript shorter and shorter and cleaner. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I'm noticing it's really cool. Like, I was like, you are using nice VS6 stuff. I'm sure that George would be like super fan.
It's
I really like
do
that
think
comment
it's a
that
little
all
weird
thing too.
to chain your venables that return this is a little strange.
Yeah, I have to say that
Yeah.
hit me up again. Like, you're returning the like at the end of every single.
This guy.
Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're doing. So what he's doing is the instance of Elasticsearch Provider is now going to be passed in as a parameter into anything that's .then off of there. But presumably you already had a reference to it because that's how you invoke this chain. So it's just kind of weird and maybe a little anti-intuitive for what I would expect.
I guess so. What you're saying, so if I did this and I did so if I had create search provider, then I have then you would expect I'd put this group all inside that then.
I would expect that if you're calling create search provider, you will be storing it in a variable at some point, because otherwise that's also weird because you're creating a provider and then just like use it, but you're not, it's kind of like you're not doing the dependency injection thing. You're just newing something up. I mean, again, it's not the end of the world, but I would probably get an instance to the search provider from a module, right? So search.
But what if it has a callback to it? Like, because right now Elasticsearch doesn't. But I was thinking, like, if I was connecting to the database, that you might have to connect, and then you get the instance from that. Like when you connect to Mongo, like it'll give you the instance to Mongo then.
Yeah. And then you would have to handle like when you open or close the connection. But that's what I'm saying. Like so you would have an instance. I think in most situations where I would use this, I'd expect to have an instance anyway. That's the first thing I would do would be like have create a search provider just be something that's have an instance of search provider either returned from a module or a very, very simple factor.
So what do you mean? Like so
just line 16 would go in its own module, right? So you could import the module to get an instance of the provider. Or maybe not line 16, but line 16. Several wherever the search config comes from as well.
Well, this has to be asynchronous.
It has to be synchronous. Wait, what do you mean?
Asynchronous, because like. It's going to make a connection.
But I'm not saying line 16 and all the thens. I'm saying, but create. Oh, I see. The create search provider is returns a promise.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's not that weird then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird. Now I'm perfectly comfortable with that idea that.
I mean,
in ways I can improve it better. I think it was weird when I did it.
I'd say maybe throw a decorator on it too. Just then this everything rather than having to do it manually.
I've used decorators. I have not written a decorator.
Yeah. I mean, it's you would have something that would run through every single thing on the class. and just
You keep
rewire
on
it
breaking
to
up, George. Your hangout problem is still
and
like
dot
just.
then this. Oh, I can move closer to my router.
Yeah, I do think now look at it, that is weird. That is weird. I'll play around with cleaning and stuff up. But yeah, the code format I'm using is standard JS and for ESLint.
So this isn't even TypeScript, right?
No, this not TypeScript. This is just ES6 with standard JS rule for ESLint. I think it was ESLint RC. This is standard, and everything else basically is just React stuff.
Cool.
I've been happy with it. Visual Studio Code, man, it's increased. Like the more I use it for my JavaScript stuff, the happier I am with it.
Are you using Vim plugin for it?
No, I'm not. I need to, and I think I need to find out the file locating shortcut and change it to what I'm used to, because Command T does not do that. And sometimes I'm like, jump to file. Ah, crap.
Wait, Command T, does it not?
No, like I Command T and type search for symbols. Maybe.
Well, it was Command P when I tried, which is what it is for Sublime and everything else. And
Why do I think it's Command T then? Am I
Command
smoking
T.
crap?
I mean, yeah, Control T was, I think, what it was in ReSharper like a long time ago. So maybe IntelliJ, not IntelliJ.
I've had a lot of text editors, so it could be that.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's P and Sublime.
No, Command
Atom.
T, Sublime jumps to files for me.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, Command T is a pretty
Command T is open new tab.
famous Vim
Could be
plugin.
a Mac thing.
Nope.
From
It's definitely Command T.
what was that text editor back in the day?
Notepad++?
No, it was one of the first. Like it wasn't Sublime. Oh man, but it was one of the things we used it with Rails, and it was really cool. TextMate.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the point of Sublime, right, initially. That was compatible with a lot of TextMate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open file. I'm looking to see confirmation or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the reason I ask about Vim bindings for it is because when I tried it, they were horrible, and maybe they're better.
They've been improving it consistently, and I get the updates, and I look at the update notes, and like the updates are like, oh, that's really cool, and things that I haven't got fully into. They also have these JS config files, which I haven't messed with, but like supposedly it makes your IntelliSense, I think, way better. Like telling it how to look at the different modules and how to load them up and stuff. So, yeah.
Cool.
There you go. That's me gabbing about Elasticsearch, what I'm working on.
All right. I mean, I have a couple things I could share. Mostly websites, but share this really quick, and then we can talk about some other things. First of all, this came up today. I think Brian posted in one of the Slacks we do it, a giant guide to how to write unmaintainable code, which is amazing, and it has such incredible nuggets in it as under no circumstances succumb to demands to write a glossary with a special purpose project vocabulary unambiguously defined. Doing so would be an unprofessional breach of the structured design practice of information. That's great. It recommends that if you absolutely have to write a design document, this is brilliant. That if you absolutely have to write a design document, you should make it incredibly. You should have it lots of blocks, incredibly deeply nested and auto-numbered, and then have all your functions named after whatever numbers they are. Nothing will get, and because it auto-renumbers every time you add a paragraph, nothing will sync up anymore. So this is all sorts of brilliant. I mean, this is awesome. I've just kind of been looking through this and just giggling. It's the guide to writing unmaintainable code. This is another thing that I discovered this week, which is all sorts of cool. I don't know if anyone's seen this before. Argument. I hadn't heard of it or anything. Check this out, though. It basically takes arguments and charts them out in a way where people can like kind of have them and follow the various threads and vote to support each premise and so on, which is just a really, really neat way of visualizing it. I mean, they have all sorts of kind of interesting stuff in here, right? Let's see. So if you just go to their page, right? All internet traffic should be encrypted. Let's see. Here's a start of an argument about that. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I've been kind of spending a lot of time just kind of browsing in there. Neat way to think about things. I'll probably use it for stuff in the future. Let's see. Oh, this is something I don't think everyone knows about this. I was doing some work with webhooks
George,
late
before you
last
close argument, I want to go back.
Yeah, let's go.
The way do they have the argument that argument is a good argument platform?
Ooh, I don't know. Can I actually search it? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Argument. Wait, is this an argument or yeah? There you go. Argument
is useless.
A copy project. Yeah. So argument is kind of cool. It seems like many people have had that thought.
Yeah, we're trolls.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. Webhooks. So you don't know, webhook is just a super simple premise of you fire off some functionality somewhere and you give it a URL, and when some service finishes that functionality, it pings your URL so that you know it finished and maybe it gives you some data. So the question comes around all the time: how the heck do you test webhooks? And this is the way to do it. This is a great way to do it. You know, especially if your site is not online yet. Basically, you go in here. It gives you a URL, and now you can basically go ahead and take this URL and use it as the webhook URL, and you get to see exactly what happens. So just I'll go ahead and put that in here. So I'll do just a regular web request, and I'll do another one. So now if I refresh this page, see there were 2 requests. You know, you can kind of see all the information about them. Let's see, you can probably see everything that was passed. So this is like super, super handy. In my case, I was integrating with Jira webhooks. So being able to know when a project is created or modified or deleted is very, very handy. See query strings, body, everything. So, you know, and right away I was able to see, oh, there's certain fields that come in the webhook that I can use right away and don't have to re-query the service for. So if you didn't know about it, there's a couple other services around there, but RequestBin is the one I use. It's very, very nice. Another thing, I don't know if anyone noticed this, but Stack Overflow launched its documentation system, which is going to be interesting. Like basically, they're trying to revolutionize documentation with just by making it collaborative. So people are basically running an introduction to promises, upvoting it, and so on and so on and so on, and then. You know, you could contribute to there. You know, if you want to get some quick Stack Overflow points, go and contribute there. It's just started. It's gonna be a heck of a lot easier than answering Stack Overflow questions and so on. And you know, from my experience and having 34,000 Stack Overflow points, it's all about getting in early and just getting the simple and like getting dumb questions out of the way that people can just come to for like years and years and years and be like, oh, okay, yeah. And the same premise would apply to documentation. So very cool. I'm kind of interested to see what will come of it. I'm into it. Let's see. What else? Oh, I'm gonna brag a little bit. I had one of my answers on Quora. I was in the top 10 JavaScript answers for last week on all of Quora. Yeah. So I kind of wrote an answer. They were asking like what languages they asked different things. What languages might replace PHP? And then kind of also like if you were creating a networking site like Facebook, what would you recommend to choose it? Which, you know, for one thing, it's kind of weird that people keep bringing that up as if writing social networking sites is something that's hard in a way that requires so much cooperation from a programming language. The fact that Facebook has made it as far as it has with PHP is, you know, a great argument against that. But kind of thinking through the various things that made PHP okay for the development of Facebook, like, you know, the fact that it is naturally PHP from its very beginning was just kind of a series of scripts, so it's not very hard to drop down to a lower level. And the fact that it's just kind of good enough and it's hackable are all kind of contribute to it, and kind of from there going into, well, what other languages, what other things do you want? Obviously, one of the biggest ones is to be able to pull for the language that you're choosing, to be able to pull in the type of engineers that you want to work for you, since, you know, creating a social networking site, you don't want the beginner engineers who just know PHP. Then kind of, for that, kind of my conclusion is I would probably go with Elixir or Go or maybe Clojure for those options. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. I was happy about that. It's gotten like tons and tons of views and upvotes. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to share. Oh, no,
can you put that on the chat, that link?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll put that in the chat. And actually, this is something I just learned recently. So this is something I've actually been really, really confused about for a while. So JavaScript promises, if you need to catch any exceptions are passed through the handler, through the error handler, but then you need to kind of, if you want them to be rethrown, there was always like this method called .done that you could call on promises chains to indicate that yes, I'm done with this, and therefore if there are any unhandled promises, any unhandled errors, then go ahead and throw it in a true exception. But then, you know, I sit down here and I was working a lot with my GemGen library yesterday, which uses a lot of promises. We can do, you know, P, stuff resolve, and then I'm looking on there and there's no .done method on there. So this kind of Stack Overflow explains what the heck is up with that, right? So, you know, we have the .done method, which would do something like this. So basically, if an error hasn't been handled, then go ahead, and if there are errors in the promise, if there's a rejection in the promise at this point, then throw it out. And there's this really nice explanation. No, it has been actually completely deprecated and was never fully supported. And kind of the reasonings for it, as well as some possible some possible ways forward. So this is kind of interesting that in ES7 we're going to get weak references. So basically you can hold a reference to an object while still allowing that object to be garbage collected, and if it is, your reference just goes away, and I assume becomes null or undefined. And it's kind of interesting that so they're basically saying you would be able to kind of do that, and if at the end of a promise chain there are no, you could try to keep weak references to errors, and if there are no other references to the error, then you could rethrow it, or at least do some diagnostics and say, hey, you have some errors that are happening that you're not handling and just letting disappear, which I think is interesting. Could certainly help out a bit. This was an interesting read because I've always been kind of confused about that, and really helped me understand it. Also, in other words, in other news, I updated GymGen so that now every single coroutine you start in it returns a promise that will end when it's done. But yeah, okay, that's it. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. But
What was
yeah.
Let me see if I can find this link that a friend sent me, and he asked for my feedback, and I was like, I don't think I heard it, or enough that I could make an intelligent response, so y'all can provide a better response. Sure. All right, there you go. So, loopback. Like, I've heard, I know strong loop, but I've never heard of loop back. Like, what is that? Like, is it just Site 4 strong loop, I guess? Have y'all used that? And
I hadn't even heard of it, no.
So, I guess there we go.
Oh, great, a chart.
A chart, yeah, that explains everything.
Okay, sure.
Right, so, yeah, okay. Same thing. I was like, I don't know. Like, I've heard of some of the things, never used it. Don't know anyone who does. So now,
Not
my journey.
Define. Has many. Belongs to. Has and belongs to many. I don't know. I'm suspicious when people start talking about modeling. Now I'm thinking that it's going to be something where you draw out UML or something, but maybe not.
It looks like just like a bootstrap type thing, and sort of get into it. Oh, hey, what does that mean?
Oh, that's the beta.
Well,
yeah, that's not saying.
That's okay. Okay. Well, all right. Now you know.
I don't know. I know less than I did before.
Yeah, there you go. Just do that, install globally, and then get started.
Yeah.
Get started.
Cool.
Loop back. Make a model. Okay, and then just generate stuff. Okie dokie.
Yep.
Well, maybe it could be awesome.
No, okay. So like it's an API generator. It's a brain dead API generator.
It's a scaffolding.
Yeah.
Like, for
that's what it is. It's one of those things which calls itself REST while completely ignoring what REST is supposed to mean, which is that you actually move through, representative states that are important to your application. Instead, it's all about doing CRUD, which is useful, but there's a limit to how useful CRUD apps are, period.
Yeah, well, that's another discussion, because that's one I disagree with a lot of people on that are heavily CRUD based. I think those are two factions. You need to go to argument and find that out. See if we get a good solution.
Go to define what app?
Can you build everything as a CRUD app?
I mean, you can. You're just not doing everything that you could do because you're offloading more stuff to the people. 'Cause
Right, yeah, your
have to
client,
do them
yeah.
more, which is sometimes what they want, but
I view it as more of a CQRS sort of actions, like those you make use cases, like your commands that you're giving, and then the CRUD stuff is what just is byproducts of those commands.
No, I mean, hey, we're on the same point. We're on the same side here. I mean, CRUD
Well, we need to have someone to fight then. Seth, is he's on the other side? Let's beat up on Seth. Quickly join us or die.
CRUD apps are disappointing. That's my
Dude, it's almost like you want the internet to just be a benign sequence of just content. Like, it's all about interactivity, CRUD. That's the root of it.
Yeah.
It's not just about
no argument there. All right, well.
Yeah, I think we can end a few minutes earlier.
Yeah. We covered Elasticsearch. We covered Stack Overflow documentation. I forgot that was a good thing to mention. Go through it. Let's see what else. We talked a lot about Elasticsearch. We talked about the promises stuff. Shared a little bit of Visual Studio Code things. Shared that we don't know anything about strong loop and loopback. Yeah.
And I know we talked about we were going to implement time travel for Redux, which we don't have enough time to do that right now, even though I don't think it'll take too long. But also,
time travel, you could go back in time. And
yeah, I also totally lost the thing that we wrote the other day. Implemented Redux to begin with.
Yeah.
Even though it was only like 7 lines of code or something.
I have like hella samples, so any.
Well, no, that's fine. I actually don't even know how time travel in Redux works, so like I was gonna just like make up how it would work. Like I've never seen the API for it, but I mean the concept of it is very straightforward.
It's just be middleware, right? You just put middleware there and.
Well, no, I wouldn't even do that. So we already had the reducer that ran through all the reducers to create state. Just you basically maintain a queue of actions, and you wrap that in another reducer that runs through the actions in order to at each action do that, and then you can, you just implement some logic for when you want to create a memo of the actions versus not. That's it. Anyway.
All right, guys. I think that's good for next week. Let's see if let's implement it and do and then we'll see how far we get.
Yeah. We'll do that.
All right, later, guys.
Cool.